You are now watching Bleav. Do you believe?
Welcome into another episode of Bleav in Kentucky. Got an absolute legend on here today. Y'all all know this voice. Look, not Buzz Aldrin, not Buzz Peterson, not Buzz Williams, not Buzz Lightyear. We got the one and only Buzz Baker in here. Buzz, I am honored to have you on here this evening, man. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Vinny. How you doing?
Can't complain. You probably heard this many times, but you're literally my UK fandom is not without hearing your voice, man. I mean, the pregame shows, the take the late games, all the different things you've done, and it's just an honor to have you and to be able to chop it up with you for just a minute, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. On the one hand, that's great to hear. On the other hand, it reminds me just how old I am, but they're both good.
I kind of thought that maybe if I say that, he might take it that way.
All good. I guess you're still here, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're getting to catch your breath for a minute. We have supposedly off seasons before football starts, but that's not really even true anymore, is it?
No, they've just, we had a bunch of recruits in this weekend. We just finished up the last of the state high school stuff last night with the championship in baseball. And then the girls state softball championship was this afternoon. And so I don't know, you get back, you get people on campus already. They're back. The basketball players just got back. And then you're down in Birmingham for SEC meetings, the second or third week of July, and all of a sudden it's here.
Yeah. And there's so many. With you covering everything, you're dipping and hearing this and there. You just mentioned the high school stuff is ending. The basketball team is back. Football will be here before you know it. Mm-hmm. And high school basketball, down here in my neck of the woods. I'm from Harlan County originally. Trent Noah now transfers to North Laurel to team up with Reed Shepherd. So that's, it's nonstop, and it's always something. I'm gonna go back just a couple weeks, but it seems like an eternity. You know how the news cycle is now.
Sure.
With your 4 decades of covering the sports, everybody was just in shock with the Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, and their little war of words and Jimbo's press conference and all that. Did that remind you of anything that you had seen? Was there anything that compared to it from your time of covering coaches when maybe it had more personality than they do now? Did it remind you of anything seeing that little spat they were having a few weeks ago?
I don't know that it was that much of a spat. I think it was just two guys kind of protecting their territory. I mean, you've had coaches that really don't like each other. I mean, Jimbo and Nick really like each other. I mean, Jimbo was Nick's offensive coordinator on that 2017 LSU championship team. They're both guys that are from West Virginia, so they've got a lot of common interests and a lot of common values. What happened when all that stuff came out? I Bleav it's the World University Games that Birmingham is hosting. And Nick made those remarks at a, cocktail function or whatever. Everybody was coming together, like in the middle of the week, all the business leaders down there to get ready for the World University Games. So I don't think it was directed at Jimbo at all. I think it was directed at his own booster base. And basically what he was saying is, hey guys, look what they're doing. And if you want to keep up with what we're doing, we're going to have to do what they're doing. And so then Jimbo, mm-hmm. He comes back and he defends his turf, and they kissed and made up, so to speak, down at the SEC spring meetings last week down in Sandestin. But I think everybody's dealing with it. Everybody's trying to figure out how to navigate these waters. And I think some guys are going to adjust to it and they're going to thrive in it. Some people, I think, quite frankly, like a Roy Williams, like a Mike Krzyzewski, like the guy at Villanova, Jay Wright. I think those guys, they don't want to deal with it, and so they've gotten out. And I think we're going to see much more transition in the major sports with this in the next few years.
I got you. Now, born and raised, Franklin, Ohio is home. just on the other side of Cincinnati, not far from Kentucky.
Mhm.
Go to college in Georgetown, but growing up, were you in Kentucky a lot? What was your perception of the state to the south? Did you have
Oh
family
gosh.
here or what? How
You
did
know,
you?
you know, I didn't really grow up a Kentucky fan, but I was down here all the time. My mom was from Owsley County.
Okay.
Dad was from Hazard. Like so many people in southwestern Ohio, their folks were from Eastern Kentucky and went there to get jobs when work kind of dried up. My mom's dad, my papa, worked a front end loader and helped build a lot of the Mountain Parkway.
Hmm.
And my dad had worked, my grandfather ran a boarding house in Hazard. He worked in a coal mine in Hyden, and he ran a bunch of moonshine. And so dad went up to Southwest Ohio looking for work. And we all worked in, up there at that time, there was Armco Steel, there were a bunch of auto plants, and there were paper mills. And we worked in the paper mills, and it paid for my college. And so I'm blessed for that. But easily 2 weekends a month, we'd be in the car heading south to see grandparents.
Yeah.
And this is before the Mountain Parkway was built. This is before there was air conditioning in cars. And this is when my dad would knock off about a pack and a half of Winston's on the way down. So, when you were driving those snaky roads, you'd be green by the time you got down there. But, those weekends are some of my favorite memories. So there were a lot of Kentucky fans up there, and there's still a ton of Kentucky fans up there now. I didn't grow up like that. Ohio State was the big dog up there in football back there in the Woody Hayes days. So, I didn't have a lot of exposure at all to Kentucky football. And I knew a little bit about Kentucky basketball, but, you didn't have any ESPN or anything, so you didn't get it a lot. So we just got a ton of like Dayton games, Miami of Ohio games, and we would see some Ohio State games, but those are primarily the games we saw, except for the big networks like CBS and whatever their game of the week was.
Absolutely. You mentioned,
I guess it was NBC at that time. It was NBC, yeah.
You mentioned Dayton because your fellow Ohioan, part of UK Network, the Pratt man himself is from there. I know you went to see him last week. How is he doing, and how's his progress?
I didn't get to go because we had state baseball. Tom and Jimmy Barnhart, our engineer, went. I've talked to Mike within the last week. It's he's been battling cancer for about 3 years, and he's one of the greatest guys around. And I was just humbled to see Cal step up, and he and his wife, match the first $50,000. I don't think it's any secret that Mike has been through a couple of bouts of this. And he's actually going to Mexico and is going to receive a treatment that's not yet approved by the FDA. So when you do that, it's not covered by insurance, and that's why that's why you need the money. He was going through this before the season and then during the season, and the last time I was with him personally was the night after the NCAA draw. The UK Alumni Club, Mark Krebs, is a big part of that in Louisville. They had a deal to break down the brackets, and I was there with Jack Givens and with Dan Issel and with Mike. And you could tell he wasn't feeling his best, but he was just battling through it. Wanted to be with fans and all those folks. And we're just praying for a miracle, and I believe in those. And God performs miracles every day, and let's hope he performs one for Mike.
Absolutely. When you finish up college at Georgetown and then you transfer over to WKYT, your first day, your first weeks, what was that like? And did you see yourself saying, this is where I want to be? Got your ties to Kentucky already.
Sure.
Think about planting roots there at that time? Or you like open to what was young Dave Baker?
It was one of those things, Vinny, where I didn't have a job 2 weeks before I graduated, and then there was an opening that popped up, and I just thought I'd hit life's lottery because I was getting paid to do what I love doing. It wasn't a king's ransom. If you ever come to the station and look at the corkboard to the right of my desk. Got a bunch of pictures of my kids, and I'm a guy that I'm not a hoarder, but I keep a lot of stuff. So I've got the first pay stub I ever got, which was for $4.25 an hour. And again, I thought it was all the money in the world. And so it was great. I've just been able to do a lot of different things there throughout the years, both at the station, and the station has supported me doing other things like the UK pregame show, like some SEC basketball. I just couldn't be any happier. I'm there for as long as they want me there.
And we've all seen, the various different videos, different humorous experiences you've been through. In your estimation, what's the coolest thing on camera that you've done? The coolest thing off camera, because you do work on and off the camera. What's the coolest things that stand out to you over your career?
Oh, I don't know about cool. I've just been blessed to be able to do a lot of different things. I've been able to cover national championships, and World Series, and bowl games. And Tim, when he was up there for the NFL draft, I've gotten to interview incredible coaches and players. I've gotten to interview governors and senators and a president and all sorts of different things. And then, I joke with people a lot, I'm probably the only guy that interviewed Randall Cobb and Randall Tex Cobb. And, I've just made so many wonderful friends in the business, and you've probably seen some of these videos, but early in my career, Randy the Macho Man Savage, after they shot their show, he would actually come in and edit it together on Friday morning, and would come up the office. Hey, Dave, anybody who's needed me? I mean, he was just getting started in the business, and just like we were, he was kind of mastering his craft. And even after he won that WWF title and was making money hand over fist, I mean, he was always the same guy. He asked about people at the station. And I'm not talking about the executives. He'd ask about them too, but he'd say, hey, is so-and-so still working in the tape room? Is so-and-so still running camera? I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And to me, that's the thing that stands out for me is all those relationships that I've made, on and off camera. They've been a real blessing.
Maybe I misspoke when I said cool, or would it?
No, not at all.
Would you consider it bucket list stuff that maybe you had hoped to maybe interview somebody and then you actually got to, or when it's all done, you stand back and say, well, I really just talked to such and such. I really just covered such and such.
The thing about it is I don't want to sound coachy or anything, but I think you just gotta be ready for the moment. Coaches talk about it all the time. You never know when your number's going to be called. And so when I was an intern at KYT, I was looking to do stuff, and all of a sudden a big storm ripped through Lexington, and I was the only person in the newsroom. So they sent me down to where there had been a bunch of damage, and I talked about it live on the air, which was really unusual for somebody like me to do that at that time. And fortunately, I didn't, mess anything up or anything, and that afforded me some more opportunities. Like I said, I was looking for an opportunity to work full time, and a job happened to open up a couple of weeks before I graduated. And then, I'd always wanted to do play-by-play as well. And I had done a lot of work for Raycom, Jefferson Pilot, whatever the name was at the time. And when the kids were little, I got a call from my boss, Jimmy Rayburn, good old Tennessee fella. He said, boy, what are you doing? I said, well, Jimmy, I said, I'm sitting here filling up sippy cups. What are you doing? He said, well, I need you down at the arena at 1 o'clock to do the game. And this was like about 10:30. And David Steele, great play-by-play man who still does the games for the Orlando Magic, had done a Magic game the night before, I want to say up in New Jersey or something, flown into Cincinnati and was going to drive down to Lexington to do the game. And we had gotten a storm, and he stepped off the shuttle bus and hit a piece of ice and broke his ankle. And so, something I've wanted to do all my life, I literally had no time to prepare for it. so fortunately, I was doing a game with Larry Conley, who's a great friend and a tremendous broadcaster, and he got me through it. And I forget the exact year, but it was when Tubby was there. Kentucky was playing South Carolina, and it was a great game. South Carolina missed a shot at the buzzer, and Kentucky won it. And so that's kind of the thing. You just gotta be ready. Sometimes what happens in this business, a lot of times, is you're just going from one thing to the next thing, and you never have a chance to go back and look at your work really. It sounds like that coach speak thing, but you don't really have time to savor stuff, or you just got to get ready for the next thing in front of you.
And I've been in the game a long time too. I remember watching I think it was the SEC Story, their version of 30 for 30 on Steve Spurrier, and him and his wife were talking, and he really hadn't taken time to look back either, kind of like you, just pressing forward. And now he's gonna, when you retire, well, maybe now, maybe now I'll look back at some of the cool stuff I did.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing for you. The way it sounds, you just keep.
But
on.
I was getting out of church today, and yesterday was Rachel Lawson's birthday, the UK softball coach, who does an amazing job, and I think she'd make a great baseball manager. I think she'd make a great baseball, a major league coach. I mean, she is that good. And so I sent her a text on the way home. I said, "Happy birthday. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm guessing you're watching tape or something." And she sends back this emoji, pointing at the camera or whatever. And she goes, "Recruited." And, just a lot of relationships with people like that are incredibly special.
Absolutely. Now, like I said, and you've heard before, heard you forever and for years doing all the different things, but your delivery, man, your energy, you are always on 10. You are always, whether it's a liquor barn spot, whether it's pregame with Goose or Rex or all the different things you've done. Has it always been that way? Or were you that way as a kid? Was your mom like, "Man, Buzz, calm down"? Was it, where's that energy come from?
I'll tell you, it's not a shtick. It's who I am. And my kids will tell you, that's who I am. I just feel like, people talk about voices and things like that. I'm a little scratchy right now because of all these allergies and this heat, but whatever people think of a voice, I've been blessed with it. It's nothing I've tried to develop or anything over the years. And I know for a fact that I'm loud. So that's part of it too. But man, if you just can't enjoy what you're doing, if doing stuff like this and going to arenas or, there, and I don't want to start preaching or anything, but there's just so much stuff going on out there in the world, right? And the one thing that Kentucky basketball, it has always been, Kentucky football, sports in general, it's at its best, it's a way for people to escape from the day-to-day grind. You've seen those pictures and those paintings before, where back in the day, you would have coal miners sitting around the coal stove, listening to K Wood do the games. You would have countless stories before this proliferation of television of people in states all over the country that would go sit out in their cars and listen to K Wood and Ralph on 50,000 watt WHAS. And so it was just a way for a moment where they could take their minds off whatever they were dealing with. And I've said this not only on the UK side and the broadcasting side, but the stuff I do at WKYT as well. Usually when a news crew comes to town, it ain't a good thing. There's some scandal or there's some tragedy or something's happened. But when the sports guys come to town, it's because you've got an amazing athlete. You've got a team that has overcome adversity and is having a great, great year. So it's always, to me, a celebratory occasion like that. And I have just always tried to, some people may find it annoying. It's just who I am. It's no shtick, but I think that we just need people at times in their life just to celebrate what it is instead of bemoaning what we don't have.
Exactly. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a person who had been doing news, living in their car, moving every 2 or 3 years, and network. And they eventually got out of that work, and they said it's the exact same grind as the sports guys without all the perks and the joy of it, just like you said. I mean,
sure.
And so they, you do have the game, you do have the fun, you do have the pomp and circumstance, if you will, of the game, the hype, the anticipation. And so, yeah, that's what we come for. You make me think about, growing up, of course, Kaywood, me being from Harlan County, the state
Sure.
level, but especially from our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
My dad was working over in Virginia at the time, crossing over in Big Stone Gap and over that way, over in Appalachia. And it was snowing. And, my sister and I are young teenagers. And my mom's just kind of praying to herself, oh, I just hope if we lose the power, hopefully your dad gets home. But, before it happens. And so Dad pulls into the driveway. The Kentucky's playing that night. Dad walks into the house. Boom! Transformer pops. Like, as soon as he gets home. So we end up, getting out some candles, a kerosene heater, listening to Kaywood on the radio. Still enjoyed the game, but she got her wish. At least Dad made it home before we lost the power that night.
Sure.
Storm, but it's just one of those funny things. Everybody's got those specific memories listening to Kaywood, and whatever the circumstances, snowstorm, no power, whatever, you still.
And that's what attracts you and attaches you to a team. And for everybody, it's a little bit different. And for everybody, the circumstances in their life, they're certainly not the same. But it's that one thing that can bring people together. And individually, they can have so many different personal stories, but collectively, they have that same love for the team and the program.
That's right. Now, let's see. Oh, gotta ask you too, being, the young listeners too that may not know, It's gonna be like me asking somebody, the broke arm, how'd you break your arm? After the 14,000th time, they get tired of it. But for the young listeners, how did the name Buzz come about? They may not know how you got it. But like, why is he? So.
Sure. I mean, it's easier. It's funny. Everybody just thinks that there's a different story, and I've heard so many wild stories about how it happened, and people say that they know how it happened. And I've been working. I don't know, maybe 3 years or something. I can't remember, but Rob Bromley, who's an all-time great, who was my boss there at WKYT. We had these old manual typewriters, and we were banging out scripts for the Late Show. And he's sitting there typing. He's like, "You need a nickname." Buzz. I think we'll call you Buzz. And then somebody mentioned it down at a basketball practice one day at UK. We were waiting to get interviews. Kaywood picked up on it. He started using it. And then I guess it really kind of got out there to everybody when I was doing the Jefferson Pilot Game of the Week. The whole crew was named Dave. Dave Neal was our play-by-play guy. Dave Rowe, who was a great player for the Raiders, was our analyst, and then me. So just kind of out of necessity, they started picking it up and ran with it then. And a lot of people still use it. Doesn't bother me which one they use, but it's funny how many people still use it.
Yeah, for sure. And for y'all that don't know, you can follow Dave on Twitter at Buzz Baker. So that's
there you go.
Keeping it going.
Mm-hmm.
In 2005, you get inducted into your high school Hall of Fame, the Franklin Senior High Hall of Fame. What was that honor like for you? Did you see it coming? Did you kind of have an idea that maybe they're gonna do it, or did it kind of catch you?
No, I mean, it was, listen, I'm very humble, but I was. It's because of what I've done here. I was a very nominal player, dude. I mean, I tried hard, but I couldn't do much. One of the guys that was inducted with me in that class was a fellow named Rick Carpenter, who was a great baseball player. Came and played down at Georgetown, and he and his wife Tammy were our house parents over the dorm over there. And then he got a coaching job in high school and moved to Texas. And that's where he had a couple of boys who were pretty good high school players. And you might know one, Matt Carpenter, who just signed with the Yankees. We still claim Matt, even though he wasn't born up there in Franklin. He's got that Franklin bloodline in him. And so it was just a great honor. We've had some wonderful athletes up there, and it was just a real honor for me.
And speaking of your home state, now I don't know, were you maybe advocating this yourself for years and years, but to see Kentucky football recruit your home state and move into Ohio, and we've seen the CJ Conrads and the Benny Snells and all those guys come down from your home state. Was it something that you were like, this could have been happening long before now, or were you kind of glad to finally?
Yeah, it's a little bit different now. It's like, everybody was really good at holding their home territory, before you got, and that's because of television and all the games being on TV and the regional sports networks. In Kentucky, they just, different coaches have different philosophy. Fran Kersey obviously recruited very heavily down in Florida and tried to recruit nationwide. Bill Curry thought you had to go south. Jerry Claiborne and some others dipped their toe in Ohio. But I think part of it is just the personal knowledge that Mark Stoops and now his brother, and of course Vince Marrow, had from playing up there, coaching up there, being up there in Youngstown, and knowing what kind of talent is there. So I think more than anything that caused it. Ohio State has obviously gone through some problems. They've been really, really good. They were good under Urban. They have continued to be great under Ryan Day. Obviously, Michigan went through some ups and downs. And quite frankly, so did Notre Dame. So that left an opening for some people to come in there. And it's not just Kentucky, but other schools have come in there. But certainly Kentucky has benefited from those strong, you can't sign everybody. You got those scholarship limits, right? It's like that period of time when Kentucky had that pipeline down there in Georgia. Georgia can't sign them all, so credit the staff for doing a great job.
For sure. Now, your first year, Kentucky women's basketball wins the SEC tournament in 82. They just won it here in 2022. We've seen a volleyball national championship, men's tennis with a runner-up, rifle, soccer. It says the elevation of all the other sports under Bitch Barnhart, is it maybe at a level that you hadn't seen in your time up until this point?
Oh, it hadn't. And, I live over in Frankfurt, and Mitch and his wife, Connie, and one of his kids and their family live here too. And we just happened to have him over to speak at our church last Sunday. And so I was thinking about this. One of the very first conversations I had with him, at the time he got here, there were some of what you would call the Olympic sports coaches who didn't have full health benefits. So, how are you supposed to compete and attract the best coaches when they're basically working for a low wage and they can't even provide medical care for their family? And so that's one of the first things he attacked. And the volleyball championship, I think, was particularly satisfying to him. Craig Skinner was the first coach that Mitch actually hired, first head coach he hired here. And he and his wife, Megan, are amazing people. And so to see them win that championship, that was really something. And Mitch is very good about paying his people well. He's also pretty resolute that, listen, if you don't want to be here, I'm not going to try to hold you here because of contract or something. I want people who want to be here. So obviously, when you're in a position like that, you're judged on what happens with football and basketball. And he's had some big hits and he's had some misses, and he owns all those. But I mean, when you look at the position he holds now, he's one of the longest tenured ADs in the country. He is the longest tenured AD in the Southeastern Conference. He was the head of the Division I basketball committee when they played the tournament in the bubble and were able to get it all through. And now he's in his second or third year, I think, on the college football playoff committee. So the respect that people that are his peers and others hold for him in this business is unquestioned.
For sure. Got to get your thoughts on what you think before everything ramps up. Football and basketball, with the teams coming back and rosters coming together. What do you think will happen when it is time to hit the gridiron and the hardwood?
Sure. I think football, they've done a really good job with recruiting, kind of reloading and doing those things. There's a lot of speculation swirling around. about what the future of Chris Rodriguez holds. They'll have somebody else step up if for some reason he's not there for a period of time, but that will be important. Will Levis has just played valiantly. What just scares me to death as a fan. I can't imagine what his parents are like, though. I mean, he's just one hit away from, being out for a while. But I mean, the spirit and the fearlessness that he plays with, it is just incredible. And so I think if those questions are answered, if they can find somebody to be that kind of playmaker that Wandale was, I think they can still continue to have the level of success that they've had. I think as far as Cal and the basketball team, I think everybody is just waiting to see what they got. We can sit here and speculate about how successful they were or weren't in recruiting this year in the transfer portal, about why things have happened. But I think that this is a big year for him and for this program. And I think it's a big year for him personally, not from a pressure standpoint or hot seat or anything like that. I mean, he's a competitive guy. He's Hall of Famer. And I think it's a big year for him personally to show that he can fix whatever happened at the end of last season. And we talked about when he got here in 2010 about how innovative he was with the dribble drive, social media and some other things, and Kentucky was the hot name. And I think he wants to get that back. And he certainly got an opportunity to do that if the guys that he has assembled play the way he expects them to. But I think this is going to be a big year for him from that standpoint.
Yeah. And we've heard the speeches at Big Blue Madness, gold standard catching UCLA. I think too, and of course he's wanting it for the program, but for himself to be the only other coach at Kentucky to have multiple titles besides Rupp, and he can kind of stand apart from Pitino and Tubby and Joe B in that regard. I think that, has to be some kind of fuel too, which everybody has egos and all that. But
no question.
I can get two and nobody else except Adolph Rupp has that. I mean, that would set him apart a little bit, even for what he's done already here.
Oh, sure. And I think he is. I think he's motivated. I don't think there's any question about that. And guys like him, they certainly don't like to be in a position where perhaps they have underachieved, but they thrive on that. And like you said, they are fueled by people telling them that they can't do something. And that's the gas in the tank that really drives everything they do. And I think that's absolutely the case with Cal.
For sure. A couple more quick things with you, man. Tell me about the Children's Charity Golf Classic that you've been a part of for many, many years, bud.
Mm-hmm. Started back in '82 as a one-day golf tournament to help the Hearing and Speech Center here in Lexington. And, since that time it's grown. Everybody hit a little dip with COVID, but it's raised about $16 million over the 40 years that have stayed right here in central Kentucky to help different children's organizations. We like to refer to ourselves as kind of a gap organization. Typically, people make requests of us, organizations, and we are able to fund about 30 to 35 of those requests every year, from everything to say there's a children's organization that needs a piece of equipment, very specialized piece of equipment, or they want to take the kids for an educational experience somewhere. We have a committee that looks at all that, all volunteer organization. We have people from the world of sports and from entertainment that have come in for years. Doug Flynn, Johnny Bench, and Matthew Mitchell are our co-chairs, and they've just got incredible gravitas out there in their communities, and they bring some people in. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful thing to be a part of it, and to be able to help kids right here in our hometown.
And that's just one of many things you've done for Bluegrass, for the Commonwealth, for Central Kentucky. So we'll transition from that right back into pats on the back you got. I already talked about you making the Hall of Fame at your high school. you already are kind of a big deal, but nothing said you're a big deal like having your own day. When we had Buzz Baker
Oh,
a
stop.
few weeks ago. So, I mean,
I just celebrated my 40th, and that's great. People were very kind. The mayor stopped out and did some stuff, and I've just been able to work with some wonderful people, and it was very gratifying calls and things that I got. I got a lady email from a lady she was 92 or 96 that took time to write. Those kind of things are they're really impactful, and I have just been blessed beyond belief to have a number of people in my life, bosses that I've worked with, other people, that have given me guidance. And my buddy Oscar Combs is certainly first and foremost at the top of that list. I mean, hardly a day goes by that we don't talk. And we obviously talk a lot about UK and things like that, but we talk about a lot of other things as well. And I've just been amazingly blessed. I'm healthy. I love what I do. And I've still got kids that spend money. So I hope to be able to continue to do it for a while.
Yeah, I have young ones, so that lets me know that road will never end.
That's right. That's right.
They
always come at you, palm up.
For sure. Do you still go to the grocery store or out in town and somebody's, I know you, I've seen you, I know your voice. You still get
every
that
day. Every day. But then too, typically I will wear a dark pants and a white shirt and just put a jacket on when I'm on the air. So if I go out to actually do something, somebody will invariably ask me for something. I was at Paul Miller Ford the other day checking on my daughter's car, and a sweet lady came around the corner and said, "Could you tell me where your bathrooms are?" I said, "Ma'am, come follow me. They're just right over here." And when I go to a particular grocery store in Lexington, I'll typically take a few minutes and go after I finish like our noon news. So like 1, 2 o'clock, invariably somebody will ask me what aisle something's in. And I always try to help them too. So you got to prepare for the career after broadcasting, right?
Right. For sure. Now I got a quick question about kind of a contemporary, been in Lexington for as long as you have.
Yeah.
Been in the print side. Jerry Tipton started right there, early 80s. Now, I go to my granddaddy's and read the Herald Leader and, read his articles just like I watched you on TV and listen to you on the radio, the same thing. Mm-hmm. But I saw John Clay's article about him, and I've covered some games and been in some press conferences, so I just see Jerry Tipton at work. But the article kept referring to his sense of humor. I've never seen that side of Jerry, so can you vouch for some funny Jerry Tipton?
Very dry. How do I want to say this? I mean, Jerry's a great guy. He's had a Hall of Fame career. A lot of really good people in the newspaper business, I think their jobs were made much tougher by the editorial pages of those newspapers. And it made it much more tougher for people that actually reported the news and didn't give an opinion. And Jerry was always famous for giving a jab or something like that. And, it just became much more challenging, I think, for him, not only from that standpoint, but then, the way the news was covered changed. When he started and came here from Marshall, he was maybe one of the only guys in town that was assigned only to cover UK basketball. Mm-hmm. So like it was maybe he and Oscar or whoever was working for Oscar over the Cats balls. So back in those days, practice was open, right? So if there was a recruited practice, if there was an injury at practice or something, probably the only two people that were going to get that was going to be Oscar and Jerry. And then Alan Cutler got very aggressive with that and made everybody better in terms of covering that. But, like you said, especially if you look in the month of October, November, we're covering UK basketball, UK football, high school basketball is just getting going. And, so we're running to and fro. But then UK started closing everything down. And I get that. A lot of schools did that, right? Mm-hmm. Then it really got closed down during COVID, and everything was done by Zoom, and you couldn't go up and ask somebody a question. It was only those people that the university brought out to be interviewed. And if there was some sort of controversy or something, they probably weren't going to bring the person out that was involved in that controversy right away. Then the other thing that happened to the print guys, I mean, I don't know when the last time you were down at Rupp Arena. They're now up there in the upper deck in what used to be the old hockey press box when the Thoroughblades played there. Mm-hmm. So, that on top of the fact that every television station, every radio station, and then with the advent of digital and radio entities like what Matt's done with KSR, that information was going out and being tweeted out immediately. So it was very difficult, easily. Back in the old days, if there was new news about something, let's say you wrote a story for the newspaper 8:00 at night, there was new news later, nobody might know about it when they got the paper the next day. But now there are so many different entities that sometimes that story, which may have been breaking news or new news, would have been old news by the time it goes to print. So I applaud Jerry for going after it straight on. He never backed away from a challenge. And, there was a day back in the day when I first started, all of us, all the media folks used to get together. We played basketball like 2-3 days a week at lunch, and kind of get on our frustrations. None of us were any good, but Jerry was a good lefty shooter, good playmaker.
Okay. Wow. I bet you was getting a lot of assists. I see you just distributing the rock and
I could shoot it a little bit. I could rebound. I always played hard. I'll say that. Probably too hard. I was a fool, but it was good exercise. And when you're out in front of the public all the time, you need an outlet, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. But as a 5'8" on my best day, I'm there with you. So try to play bigger than my size and rebound.
Yep.
I got you. I'm with you, Dave. I'm with you. Well, man, I can't thank you enough. Appreciate you taking time out of catching your breath to hop on here and do this podcast. I know everybody's going to enjoy listening to it. And when it ramps back up, we'll be looking forward to hearing your coverage on the pregame shows, on WKYT, everything that you do. We've always enjoyed it, 4 decades, man. And you've been so gracious and deflecting all the praise, but you deserve all the praise you've gotten, man. And thank you for taking time to hop on here with me, man.
Danny, you're the best. Always happy to do it, my friend. Stay safe. Have a great summer.
You too. It's been another episode of Bleav in Kentucky. Y'all rate, review, subscribe, and enjoy. Buzz Baker on here, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you for watching Bleav. You can find more great content at Bleav.com. That's BLEAV.com. Do you believe?